What's happening, team? Hi, guys. Doesn't look like we have anybody in yet, but if you are new to us, you know that this channel is Tell Your Story, and every Friday we go live with different topics that we discuss and hopefully get involved with the people that are watching these videos in the comment thread to the right. Corey has decided to join me for this one, so that's kind of exciting. I know our quality of video isn't so great. We're working on that. And we got a big ring light in the back that kind of helps us thread the light on us. But, you know, until then, I look like I have a mullet and she looks beautiful. So we're going to go with that. Last week, we tried to go live on Facebook, and I went on and on for a good probably 20 minutes, and no one could hear me. So hopefully on YouTube, the audio works a little bit better and it's clearer. And I don't know how much lag you have where you are, but hopefully you're getting the message across and you can hear us here on the screen. We talked about, I think gratitude was the topic of that day. And we had just left to go to the coast and see Corey's family. And we had a great time going out on the river and crawfish and some quality time with family and that sort of thing. This week, I was interested in talking about a different topic. I wanted to hit on facing trauma. This is a kind of a big deal for us, especially with folks like us who are in recovery. Facing trauma is a really big part of our sobriety and how we move on to different tier levels of healing and of just clearer mindset moving forward in our lives. If you're just coming in and watching us right now, leave a comment in the thread. Tell us where you're from, who you are, and if this is something that you deal with, facing trauma in your life. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and we'd like to share some of the things that you have going on in your life. So I guess with a bigger note, in facing trauma, I took down a couple of notes, or I looked up some facts. And these are two things that I'm super interested in when it comes to facing trauma. And right now, it's estimated that 50 to 70% of adults in the United States have experienced at least one traumatic event in their lifetime. And approximately 15% of these people will go on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, which can be serious and sometimes disabling illness. 3.6% of the U.S. population suffers from PTSD.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. So if you're thinking of 300 million people, if 2% of those people have some form of PTSD, almost like everyone around you has some kind of event that's happened in their life that's given them. What are some of the effects of PTSD? Like you waking up and having nightmares?
Well, I mean, it's little things down to, you know, not being able to concentrate on things. It can be, you know, for a long time for me, like, you know, after my experience that I had, you know, someone would go to touch my shoulder and I would almost jump out of my skin.
Yeah. So you just get surprised easily. Mm-hmm. You know, my traumatic events come from the things that I did on alcohol, right? So I'm an alcoholic. The things that I did were really kind of horrible. I incited a lot of violence, you know, in my drinking, because I have a tendency when I have 10 to 12 beer to think that I'm invincible. And the fact that, you know, I get on this spiel and like, I'm 6'2", 225 pounds, and I can take anybody in the room. That's usually what happens when I get drunk, and somebody's going to respond to that and get really, really angry with me. Where does your trauma come from?
Mainly, the biggest one was Joe. You know, a guy that I dated, and he almost killed me. You know, there was an alcohol-induced fight. I got choke slammed. I got choked until I was unconscious. Meleeed, being punched in the face, and you know, it caused me a lot of fear for a long time.
Yeah, I've got some comments here from Kyra. She says, "Happy to watch this. Thank you for your stories and courage to help others." Thanks, Kyra.
Hey, Kyra.
We're glad you're here. And then Lucy, my sister, she called me a macho man. Yeah, Randy Savage would be a better way to say that, that's like a 90s reference. You can probably look that up. Macho Man, Randy Savage, Anyway, Kira, not Kyra. Okay, Kira. That's a very popular name in Japanese anime. But anyway, we'll go on to that another time. So if you're just tuning in again, we're talking a lot about trauma and facing trauma. And we're coming from a position where the two of us, COARIE and I, have been through trauma. And a lot of what happened to us, not everything, more so me than her, happened because of me. And do you think that that's affected how you go into relationships?
Oh, absolutely. It took a lot for me to have some sort of trust.
Yeah.
But once I finally faced what I went through, because I avoided it for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and it kept me in an absolutely dark and miserable place. But once I was able to confront that fear and face it, and I had to learn how to love myself again, because not only was there physical trauma, there was mental trauma, that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you'll never amount to anything. All those things played in with that physical abuse. And I'm one of those people that will say that mental abuse is far worse than the physical abuse, because that mental abuse stays with you. The physical abuse brought me fear, but the mental abuse took it to a whole nother level.
What's the name of the lady that we always talk about? She talks about
Brene Brown.
Brene Brown. I'm a
amazing.
huge fan. My dad gave me an audio book that she had written based on a lot of research that she had done on the topic of shame. And she speaks on how shame feeds into fear and how to get rid of it, why you're worthy of love and great and growing relationships and things like that. And when I think about trauma, I think about shame. For me, that's the number one word that hits. I think it hits me in a place where, one of the reasons I was drinking so much is because I didn't like the guy that I was looking at in the mirror. I did not like who I was. But for some reason, that scapegoat was chugging, a 6-pack of Coors Light or taking down a couple shots, because then I could just turn that off and be whoever I wanted to be. Those lines that you're supposed to draw in the sand. Yeah, well, I sort of dove past those and then just pissed everybody off. So one of the things that we do now in our lives is work through these traumatic events. Part of recovery, and then a program like ours, a 12-step program, is that you learn to get rid of things like resentments. You take an inner dialogue, it's getting rid of your, what do they call it? Personal defects or character defects. Thank you. Character defects. And I have a lot of those. So we work together, every day in both our relationship and our journey through sobriety of how to do that. How are you working on yours?
For me, the biggest thing is communication. I was taught from a very early age to not talk about your feelings. If something happened, you just put it over there in the corner and just act like it didn't happen. You don't express things. You don't, allow it to come out. And so having that mindset, I always just bottled things in. I didn't communicate with anybody. So for me, this go round in my recovery, it was very important for me to understand that it's okay for me to have human emotions. For the longest time, I thought that I wasn't supposed to get angry. I wasn't supposed to get sad, but we're human. That's going to happen. We have human emotions, but learning how to be okay and be in that moment and process it and not dwell on it has been very important. When it comes to, with the two of us, communication, from the jump.
Oh yeah.
Just putting everything out there, being completely honest about things, and, just not hiding anything.
Oh yeah. From a relationship standpoint, you and I have shared everything.
Yeah.
To a point where it's scary, Yeah. Like she's nuts. And I get that. and I accept that, there's no shame involved. I think the two of us have done so much that we look back and kind of tell each other stories. You know, maybe it's the one-upper kind of hour. She tends to trump my stories, but I do the best that I can to accept her, and she accepts me. So that's good enough. My smart ass, you know, that's the way it works. From a relationship standpoint, communication. For me, you know, building and facing trauma meant I had to be comfortable in here. I had a business partner that used to say, you have to be the face of the place. And as a manager, that meant owning up, you know, to things that you did wrong, taking responsibility for the team that was around you. And a lot like sobriety, that means surrounding myself with a team of people that do what I would want to do. You know, they have something that I want, and that's sobriety and a growth with the people that are around them that's trusting. And so being comfortable with the guy that's in here meant that I had to face some people and not necessarily apologize, but just take responsibility for the things that I'd done and tried to heal them in some way. When I took a step out and put a hand out and reached towards these folks and said, hey, look, you know, I get it. You know, I was an asshole. Is there any way I can make this better? My shoulders went from being uptight up here to just dropping down, because all of a sudden facing those people that I had the traumatic events with and giving them an ounce of peace by saying, hey, I get it. I'm backing off of that and trying to be better. I was a brand new person. My brain calmed down, my heart stopped beating, and I was better for it. So have you gotten to face any of those resentments?
When it comes to things that I've done to people, yes, I have made amends for a lot of things. The abuser,
yeah.
No, that's, you know, I recognize my role in things that happened because it wasn't, you know, it took a long time for me to admit that it wasn't completely one-sided, you know, because that was who I was with my journey through meth. So it got pretty wild at times, but I took responsibility for my actions, and, you know, his family, I reached out to them and, you know, made my amends to his family for anything that I might have caused within their family unit. Yeah. But I don't feel safe to confront him in any way. And that's just not, it's not something that I'll ever do. He won't be
coming into our lives, I'm just saying.
You know, it's
big hoss, right, Lucy?
You know, I can make living amends.
Sure.
And that's the only thing that I feel comfortable doing, because I'm more concerned about my personal safety.
That makes sense. Well, I want to take a second to look at the comments, because we've got a thread going on here. Lucy said, Corey, I'm glad to see you in front of the camera. Yeah. Corey's got she's got that FOMO, the fear of missing out. But she was willing to get on camera this time and be in the video. So I'm excited to have her. To be honest, when she's on the camera, when she gets on camera, I have more viewership, and that's in every video we do. So the secret of YouTube is to have a blonde with blue eyes, and you're just gonna go viral. All right, going back to the comments. Kira says, I was not open to, I guess, get clean until I dealt with my traumas head on. So glad you're able to come out on the other side. Oh yeah, for sure. We haven't come all the way out on the other side. I can tell you that much, because this is a lifelong process. I do things all the time that I regret. You know, small things. Usually it's my mouth or my comments that get me in trouble with friends and other people. And I got to go back and be like, damn it. I gotta rethink what I just said. Because what I think is funny is not always funny to everybody else. I have a sick sense of humor. Lucy, yes, it's definitely not your fault. The bruises fade, but the mental scars are there much longer.
Absolutely.
Those mental scars, and I said this in another video, I think, the scars that get cut across your heart or your head tend to actually pivot into being something more positive than negative. At least for us in recovery, I think that we use the experiences that we've had to tell other people how to get through them, or how to move forward with a different design for a living. That's the most positive thing I have. I have no degree. She has some certification and degreeification and all that jazz. I have nothing. I have a high school degree, and some years of college, but nothing that would tell me or tell someone else, the average Joe, that we are, like qualified to talk to people. The only thing that qualifies the two of us, in life to help others is our experience. So your traumatic events will turn out to be your greatest strengths. If you just learn to face that thing. Don't take your past and throw it aside, but you can kick it behind you and realize you don't have to do those things anymore.
Kira, good job. 627 days. That's amazing.
627 days of sobriety. That's fantastic.
Incredible.
That's actually more than COARIE and I both have. We're happy to have, a day of sobriety. So 600, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That's amazing.
What else we got? Kira said, it's crazy how so many addicts' stories are so similar and how they grew up and the things they were taught. It blows my mind. It's nice to not be alone in this journey. I think, Kira, did you know where she's from?
Well, we talked on Facebook, and she's from the other side of the country.
Okay, so we're reaching people all the way out in Oregon?
Yeah.
In Oregon. That's exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
So change the game, motherfucker. Yeah. I gotta stop cussing. This is going on to YouTube. But anyway, yeah.
There's character defects.
I'm full of them. Kira says, that's the beauty of it. It's not a said and done thing. We get to grow and flourish more and more every day and learn how to live truly in the moment. I love it. Yeah, no doubt. We try our best to understand that we're not alone. And believe it or not, that's one of the reasons this relationship seems to work. You cannot do it alone. And in fact, coming out of sobriety, what they tell you is the numbers are so screwed up, and you are too. You probably don't want to jump into a relationship. She stole me from a rehab, I'll be completely honest. And we decided at the pivot of the moment, like, let's move in together. It's probably a good idea. We both had jobs, and money. So doing that didn't seem like a bad idea. It cut all the bills in half. Turns out it was a fantastic idea. We've now lived together for going on a year and have done a lot of amazing things. We've been skydiving. That's a whole different ballgame. So we talk about traumatic fears that you have to face in your life. She and I like to face fears that are pretty normal. Like you might have arachnophobia, fear of spiders. Well, that's not one I'm going to tackle. I hate eight-legged creatures, destroy them. But we tackled our my fear, I guess, of heights, and decided to go skydiving. So we went to Alabama, and we go up, and they take us up in this plane. And Corey's like, "Hey, just so excited to be here,"
That's exactly how it sounded.
I'm in the back, with this look on my face, like, when are we gonna land? And Corey's in front of me. I had to watch all of them jump out before me, and the guy was like, "Isn't it great? You get to live at least 2 minutes longer than all of your friends." And
it's great, guys. There's a picture on Facebook. I think it's on my page, and it's Nathan and I sitting next to each other on the plane, and I'm just like, "Hey, I'm happy to be here," and Nathan is just terrified, like he's smiling, but just absolutely terrified. But I think the difference was our tandem jumpers. Like my guy was like meditation guru, and he's like doing breathing exercises with me, and I'm like, at that point, I'm like, if I die, I die. Like I'm totally okay with it. But Nathan's guy's messing with him so bad.
My guy told me he was trying to comfort me, and he said one of them, he was like, you know what goes through your mind right before you hit the pavement? And I'm like, I don't know, man. What he goes, my mind, because I'm going to be sitting behind you. Curse splat. Yeah, that was what a douchebag. He was a great guy. Oh yeah, no curse. That's not a curse word. It's just not a curse word. I think, in coming to a halt with our own fears, if you're still in here and you're watching this video, if you have a fear, if you have something specific, maybe just maybe you're scared of midgets, I don't know, but if you're scared of something, put it in the comments. I want to know what you're afraid of. Lucy says, I could never jump out of a plane. Y'all agree? Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah. I mean, it was tough. I leaned back and just fell. So it's not like I jumped. I fell gracefully. Yeah. If you've got a fear, mention it. I want to know what it is. I want to hear what you're afraid of, between small fears, family, maybe you're afraid to face someone in your family that you've done wrong to. I had a family member that I did wrong to years back, and I got the chance to apologize to one. The other, I have yet to do that. But through social media and other things, we've gotten back in touch in a way that I think we may not have had I not apologized to one specific one. And watching these folks comment on my photos, way to go, bro, and things like that. It kind of rejuvenates me when I know I'm going through this transformation as a person and as a man, and seeing them communicate with me really, really, puts some joy in my heart. I think, something really awesome to talk about, facing those fears. When you get through a point in sobriety, it opens doors. Okay. And this is with relationships. This is financial doors. When you make better decisions, things seem to fall in place. And that's with anybody that decides that one day they want to wake up and, let's get rid of cigarettes. Let's stop smoking. Let's save that extra $10 that we may have not, done in the past. Doors open up. People come into your life, because I said it in another video, it's your vibe that attracts your tribe. If you're giving out good vibes and doing good things, those are the types of people that are going to stick around.
Lucy just put a good one.
What did Lucy say? Lucy said, something happening to my kids and not being able to help them. Yeah, that's incredible. My sister, Lucy, is my sister. What do you know? She has 4 children. She's got a green thumb, and she's always just been the family type. She has these incredible. Now, I will say, Lucy, your children are fantastic, but they're spastic, and that's the truth. They're all little minions, and I love every one of them to death. Can you imagine? You have children.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, something happens? I feel like this is a dream you might have. Something happens to those kids, and you can't get to them.
I think those maternal fears.
Yeah.
Are just. I don't think that it's something you can necessarily get rid of, but it's very tough to figure out how to not become a helicopter parent and allow your children to have their own life experiences. Mm-hmm. I believe that if you try to shelter your children from everything, from the real world, they're going to turn out really screwed up.
There's no doubt.
My kids, they're 9 and 11, but they know about my alcoholism. Mm-hmm. So, that's something that I didn't want to hide from them, because they have a good chance of, getting there. And I don't know, but just something happening and not being able to get to them, I'd lose my mind.
Lucy, you put one that I really enjoyed. You said, but also not making my family proud. Okay. This is a big one for me. One, because I have a dad who is, education is like another job of his. He has a tendency to change careers and get multiple degrees and, be the humblest and smartest guy in the room. So that's always a tough thing. It's a tough thing to measure up to, especially when you're a guy like me that in his 30s decided to go backwards a few steps, And there's another side of that. I'm adopted. So I have this, now more so when I was younger, I had this fear of where was my place in this life. And alcohol sure didn't help that, but it kind of brought it back. The other place was, I haven't really done much. I've done a lot. I've actually done a ton, but not truly what I've wanted to do. Am I happy? Where I am, how I've lived my life. And the truth is that I've done some pretty crazy things. But between moving across the country, being a wildland firefighter, joining AmeriCorps, going to college, doing a lot of things that have been super exciting. I was given a multi-million-dollar business to run for a couple of years. Those are some really cool things to put. But somewhere in there, I was unhappy, and not making the parents proud sent me into this, like, I play the victim card a lot. Like, I'd get drunk enough to think to myself, well, it's their fault. Obviously. Yeah. And that's not normal. That's not the way you think when you're sober and you're really, diving into what's going on in here. And Corey said earlier, communication. Yeah. When we started communicating those things, I had a counselor look at me in the face and be like, you're kind of an idiot. And I was like, thanks for that. Not many people hold me accountable. And when I came to Columbus, Mississippi and decided to get sober, everyone held me accountable. Yeah. So now I didn't get to say a lot of smart aleck things without much of a, Nathan, shut up, please.
Yeah, that was a really cool experience. I mean, not in the moment, but looking back at it now, because when I first went to treatment, I was that little brat sitting there with my arms crossed saying, well, if he would have done this, I would have done that. Or if she would have done this, I would have done that. It is not my fault. What? Yeah. But I had that one counselor that looked at me and she was like, okay, so what did you do? I'm like, nothing.
Yeah. Take responsibility, folks.
Yes. When I finally, I felt like what was his name? Chunk in the Goonies. when he starts just like spilling everything. Like, that's what happened to me. I'm like, well, I did this and I did that. And they're like, calm down. There's time for all that.
We're going to have to watch the Goonies when I get up. Kira said, I sometimes am still afraid of going out into public due to the psychosis I went into still affects me. Some days being in public is hard. And that can be true.
Did you experience any of that with
alcohol? So I didn't do any hard drugs. I have smoked weed once, and I did take half of a Xanax one time. But in alcohol, I think the psychosis happens when, and it doesn't last long, but when I get heavy hours in the drinking, and I'm watching like Smallville. It's like the greatest show ever about Superman. I would drink so heavy, I was like in the show, like I'd be in there, I'd be like, tell Lana you're sorry, and get home. I don't know if as much psychosis as it was just being. Did you see shadow people?
Maybe once or twice. But no, that psychosis, it brings you to a state of mind that it's just this complete and utter paranoia. You can't distinguish reality from what's going on in your mind. It's really scary because you get to a point where, people talk about the paranoia. You feel like people are watching you. You try to walk through a store and you're like, what are you looking at? And the person's like, not even exactly. And then you end up making an ass of yourself. But the bad thing about like that meth-induced psychosis is it can last for years afterward. There's, I don't have so much of that anymore. I did struggle with it for a long time, and I would have to like do something to bring myself back into the moment. Yeah. I've told you before about like counting. Like I would start counting like bricks on the wall or count, doing this number, and I still do that when I get really nervous or anxious. But I had to find ways to snap myself out of that and bring myself back into the moment because it gets really scary. I know you've had conversations with guys about feeling like they're lost in their mind. And that is an absolutely terrifying place to be.
And that's a real fear. A lot of the folks that we talk to have that fear of losing themselves in here and getting stuck there. One in particular, guy who has done some heavy usage of drugs, and he has a legit fear of not knowing the difference between reality and fantasy. And for a lot of people who have, experimented in heavy drug use, that's a fear because it's true. Chemically induced trauma can be a real thing, and not knowing the difference between reality and fantasy. I don't want to wake up in the morning and not know if I'm still dreaming or not. No, thanks.
Yeah, it's really scary. Today, like, I don't like to not be in control of up here. Like, I had to go to the dentist and I had to have some work done. So they gave me gas and I'm laying there, I've got my headphones in, and all of a sudden, like, I felt like I was spinning and I got terrified, like, to the point of like tears in my eyes, because I'm like, no, we can't go back there again. Yeah. So I like pulled one of the headphones out and am trying to like talk to the people, because like, I need you to tell me you're right here. I don't like not being in control.
Well, I think getting back to, even how to face your fear, to sort of sum up what we're talking about here is that, life is trauma. Life is problems. Buddha says that life is suffering. I think that's right. And, how we handle it and how we go about our day to day will dictate where we end up, whether or not we choose to be happy, and happiness is a choice, and whether or not, we choose to do the right thing, or, I hate to say it, sometimes the lesser of evils. And what I mean by that is that choosing not to drink is one thing. There are people out there that do drink that are able to, and to stay functioning. Can you drink and maybe not hang out with the people that are, terrible, that are alcoholics? Lesser of two evils, maybe. But sometimes the choices we make dictate not just our day-to-day, but the best parts of our lives. Were you reading something that Kira said? No, Lucy. Oh, okay. Yeah. I read my psychosis was very bad for like 11 months. Like, I thought people were always staring at me, and I thought the government was after me, and I couldn't even walk down the street. We had a buddy who told a story, and he was doing some heavy usage of things such as meth. And he tells a story about being in his house, and he could have sworn he saw somebody go by the window. So he grabbed like a gun and a flashlight and went outside and did a circle around the house. And when he got back to the porch, he realized he was right behind them, because there are the footprints of the man that was going to break into the house. Turns out he was chasing his own footprints around the house. He made like 10 circles before somebody who was in the house told him to come back inside, because he was freaking nuts. Lucy says, I cannot imagine. I don't like being in control, not being in control of my body. I hate that people suffer with that. Terrifying. I agree. Kira says, it just recently started to lighten up. I sit there and close my eyes and just say 5 seconds at a time, because I live life 5 seconds at a time. That's exactly how it was, and sometimes still is. Like, I feel like I'm in a huge dream. It makes living in the moment so hard, but sobriety is worth it.
Absolutely.
I have this pattern of something that I practice at work and other places that I go to kind of keep my brain functioning and to stay in the moment. Every time you go through a doorway, just look up and look around. Take a big mental picture of where you are. Sort of calms me down and gives me a big mental image of just everything that's going on in the moment. Something to practice. Maybe that'll help you. Maybe it won't. Anyway,
Lana's living in the moment.
We have a cat that's living in the moment. She's currently looking outside the window, dreaming of what it would be like to be an outdoor kitty. We envision her saying, like, every day she wakes up and she's like, day 7,000 of captivity. The humans are still in bed. She calls the vacuum the demon. What do we got? Lucy said, proud of your Kira. Keep it up. She's giving you some clappings, lady. Kira, thank you, Lucy. I'm about to be 2 years clean. So grateful for it. I am so happy that people are having conversations in these threads. That's pretty awesome.
I love this.
This is a lot
Yeah.
of fun. And I guess, you know what? We've been on here for about 35 minutes. I want you guys to know where you can find us. If in the future other people are watching this that we don't know, you can find us on YouTube under the channel name Tell Your Story. And it'd be much easier to probably find us on Instagram at Tell Your Story Vid. And there's a link in the bio to our channel. And if you can't find us on YouTube, you can just search my name, because apparently the channel is hard to find, but my name will bring it right up. And that's Nason Stevens, NASON STEPHENS. That should bring it up. I hope somebody doesn't steal my identity. But either way, excited to be here.
Date of birth.
Date of birth, social security number, and livelihood. When you find us, you'll find stories from other addicts, some motivational tales, things like that, where we talk about and discuss topics of addiction and life. Very exciting, very fun. We've got another story coming in tomorrow.
Super excited about it.
Really great friend of ours who has been here with me through pretty much my entire year and a half of sobriety. He's got a great story and some really, if we're talking about trauma, this is a guy that has faced some craziness in his life and come out the bitter end of death. I mean, he's literally died and come back to life, you know. And then we appreciate him, and we hope that you can get something out of his story. If you stay tuned for that, it'll probably be up by Saturday afternoon. And I'm so excited to share that with you guys. I think that in the future, we've got a few more scheduled. COARIE has basically scheduled us out for the next 5 weeks. If those people don't go out of town, things like that. Oh, 8 weeks. Sorry. So we have a lot of interviews coming up. And then we've got more topics to discuss. We love getting online here. COARIE for the first time in the video, facially. And then, you know, in the future, we tend to think we'll build a big library, and we hope more people will join us for the discussion.
And
this is a lot of fun.
That maybe one day this guy will scoot over and let me do it. And, you know, I want to get these women in here and, talk about, the real trauma, but I can't say just women, because guys face it too.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that'd be a really neat thing to talk about is, that domestic violence, the mental abuse, all of that stuff, and get other people's feedback on it and see, how they processed it and where they're at with it now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Fun fact, I was terrified to get into a relationship.
Well, I'm terrifying looking. I've got great dimples. That's what it is. I knew it. So I'm going to read a few more here. Thank you. Yeah, Lucy, can I get your social security number? Kissing. You mean kidding? Anyway. Yep, she wrote it down. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your time. We appreciate anyone and everyone who wants to listen to these stories and be a part of our sobriety and our journey, through this life. If you get a chance and you haven't already, please like and subscribe, because that helps with our algorithm, and share this video as much as you can. The more that we can share these videos and our stories, which I think is the future of YouTube, is people in story mode, where they tell things about their experience, because the human condition is based on experience. And the only way that we move forward and become better people is by sharing that with others. So please do that for us. And thanks for being here. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.